This is a prepaid call from
Truth.
an inmate at the Virginia Department of Corrections.
To accept this call, your current balance is $3.29. This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording.
Thank you for using GTL.
Welcome y'all to Truth Beyond These Walls. This is where we discuss, share, give insight, facts, and personal opinions on my first-hand experiences living real life from inside the prison walls. By the way, I'm Truth. I'll be your personal tour guide through these dimly lit hallways, dirty, cold, and cramped cell blocks, and the underworld of this chaotic, grim, dark, rowdy, and lonely, dangerous, broken home for many that we refer to as the belly of the beast. Make no mistake, what you're about to hear is 100% facts. You're not going to find it anywhere else more descriptive and realer than I give it up. So open your mind a bit, take a few minutes to soak up what I'm going to reveal, and walk with me through the depths of this living hell on earth that we so commonly refer to as the Department of Corrections, or otherwise known as prison. What's up, everybody out there? As always, I'd like to thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Truth Beyond These Walls. I got an extra special guest joining with me on the line today. This will actually be our very first female guest on the podcast. She's urban fiction, street story royalty, so to speak. A four-time New York Times best-selling author. I've actually read quite a few of her novels over the years myself. Got very familiar with her brand for a long time now. Unfortunately, she has spent a great portion of her life behind the walls too. But she's home now, continuing to make power moves from which she actually started from her own jail cell. She's a mentor, a writing coach, businesswoman, amongst many other things. And I'm just grateful to have her on the line today to chop it up with us on Truth Beyond These Walls. So with all that, I'd like to introduce y'all to the queen of urban street literature herself, Miss Wahida Clark. What's going on, Queen? How you feeling today?
Fantastic. It is great to be alive. Peace and love. Big shout out to all my brothers and sisters on lockdown and those who are home trying to make it happen. Thank you for having me on your show.
That's great. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. That's good to hear. I can definitely say the feeling is mutual. I'm actually feeling real honored, to have you on the line with us this morning. I've been really looking forward to getting you on here for a while now. But with that being said, for the listeners' sake and those who may not know, where you from?
I'm from Trenton, New Jersey. Born and raised.
No doubt, Jersey.
Dirty Jersey. Absolutely. Home of Redman, Queen Latifah, and others. So, yes, that's where I was born and raised.
Okay, well, I don't know if you know, but I'm very familiar. I actually grew up in East Orange myself and in between North and Irvington, so I already know. But, for those that may not, tell them what life was like coming up in Trenton at that time.
Well, during the time that I came up, it was, to me, it was awesome. Of course, as the years went by, and now when I go back, I'm like, oh my gosh, Trenton looks like a war zone. But coming up, it was beautiful and it was fun, and I wouldn't change a thing because Trenton shaped me into what I am and who I am today. I grew up in Dolly Holmes projects on the north side. Then when we was living in the projects, on the north side in Dolly Homes, they have the apartments and they have the houses. So we lived in the houses. So one day when I came from school, our stuff was on the lawn. We had got put out. So that's when I moved to the west side of town, and I just hope it opened up a whole new playground for me. So I had a ball growing up. In the hood, we make the best. In the hood, we make the best of a horrible situation. Just what we do.
No doubt, absolutely. If you don't mind me asking, how much of your life was spent behind bars?
My sentence was at the trial. Actually, I was the only female on our case. It was a total that took it to trial. It was like 15 or 16 of us, but only 6 of us, number 6 again, took it to trial, and we lost. So my sentence was 125 months, 10 and a half years. I served 9 and a half years of the 10 and a half.
And this was all in the feds, right?
All in the feds, yes, sir.
Was that your first time getting incarcerated?
For a period of time, all before then, it was like I was, my husband, he was locked up. So I had 2 daughters, and, receiving welfare and working and going to college while on welfare. So I got convicted for welfare fraud. Hustling, just like in my books when thugs and the women who loved them opened up. She was writing checks at the mall. That used to be my hustle. I did 90 days for the 20. They got me for that at the same time, the welfare fraud and the check hustle at the same time. So I did 90 days in the county jail. That was my first time doing time. But then when I was moved to Georgia and was working for this company, that's when I got convicted and got the big federal time, the 10 and a half years sentence.
How old was you at that time?
Which time?
What the time you went in to do the long stretch?
The feds, that was in 99, because I remember sitting on the top bunk in Arizona, one of the worst county jails. We talk about Joe Arpaio, Tent City, that's where I had to sit. We was in Arizona for a year before the feds. I finally got sentenced, and they sent me to Lexington, Kentucky. But I remember sitting on the top bunk, and it was 1999, New Year's Eve, and it was playing Prince's 1999. So that was in 1999.
Okay. Well, check it out, because I don't really want to get into all the alleged crimes or allegations that landed you in prison in the first place. So, I mean, I will say for anybody curious enough, to Google search and learn about your story, I know for sure it was a journey. What I would like to know, though, I had this question to all my guests. After all the court dates was finished, when the trial was over, when that judge handed you your time, what was going through your mind? How'd you feel in that very moment?
I remember when the judge said 125 months. So I leaned over to my attorney. I said, "What does that mean?" Because I ain't never did no big time with no trial. I said, "What does that mean?" She said, 10 and a half years, Miss Clark. I was like, what's that old show, Different Strokes, or Arnold said, "What you talking about, Willis?" I was like, "What you talking about? 10 and a half years?" I was like, "Y'all crazy." So that's what was going through my mind when the judge handed me that sentence.
Yeah. It's crazy because when I ask people that, I always get a different reaction, but the reactions that I usually get from people I can always relate to. And I always tell people this too. For me personally, when I stood in front of the judge and heard him tell me 40 years, I thought my life was over, like right in that moment. It wasn't until I heard him say that half of it would get suspended, that I really got myself back together. But I barely even heard him say that, so I could imagine how you was feeling as a woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, because look, my husband, he was locked up. I left 2 teenage daughters out in the streets with my relatives. No one was out here to run my businesses. I had lost my property, vehicles, everything. So I was like, first of all, I said, my husband was like, "You're taking it to trial. Ain't no way you was working at a job and they're going to convict you. We're taking it to trial." So we took it to trial, and the jury found everybody guilty, and it didn't really click to me. The first year, I'm sitting there waiting on to get sentenced in Arizona, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get out on bail. You always had that hope you're gonna get out, and the lawyers filing paperwork. I'm gonna get out. So nothing happened. It didn't really click until after they transferred me from Arizona to the federal camp in Lexington, Kentucky. That okay, this was real. I have to buckle down. And I had called home one day, and I said to my niece, I said, "Send me some money, because of the feds, you got to pay to wash your clothes. You know how it is in prison. You got to pay for everything." So I was like, I called home. She said, Wahida, we'll see what we can do. I said, what you talking about? You see, we can do all that money out there. Y'all ain't got no money? She said, we packing up. At that time, I was in Georgia because I had moved to Georgia because they had put my husband in the USP penitentiary down here. So I wanted to be close to him to go see him instead of flying all over the country. So she said, we're packing up. We're moving back to Jersey. She said, nobody's running your businesses. They foreclosed on the house. We lost both houses. The car is repossessed. So we going back to Jersey. And when I hung up that phone call, I'm like, oh my gosh. So that's when it really became real that I had to buckle down and do something because it wasn't happening. Yep.
Yeah, I can feel that. So look, on this platform, right, I like to do things a little differently than what most folks are used to when it comes to these topics about jail and prison. I personally like to try and educate the listeners, with things that they may not have ever heard of, even thought about, when it comes to prison and the people in here. And, because I know you can relate, and I'm sure you've seen and experienced a whole lot during your incarceration. I know you're familiar with most of, if not all the topics that we probably discuss on this show. I really want to ask you about how it was being surrounded with, so much negative energy in that environment. What can you say was the greatest positive thing that might have came out of doing the time you did, aside from creating, a successful writing career?
Well, you have to learn discipline and don't waste time. You have to do the time and don't let the time do you. And, I've met a lot of good people in prison, people that I still am in touch with today, that came home, trying to do the right thing, hustling, got their businesses launched. So, like I said, I wouldn't change a minute or a day of it. And, no regrets. But, don't waste time because, the time is going to go by anyway. So you might as well make the most of it. If you ain't got no GED, get your GED. If you don't have a degree or a skill, get something. Just do something with that time because, imagine if I just sat there for 9.5 years and did nothing. That's 9.5. You get home, 9.5 years wasted. And because remember, when you get out, you're starting from scratch. You don't have a support system and family and money waiting for you when you get out the joint.
Yeah, that was actually leading to my next question because I was going to ask you, were you able to do any schooling or take any trade courses, anything like that while you was down?
I took a couple of courses, but they didn't really amount to anything compared to when I started writing because, like I said, when I called home to my niece and asked her to send me some money, she said, we'll see what we can do. I said, oh my gosh, because I'm, naturally a hustler. I always take care of my family because my husband, he was locked up. I didn't have any choice in the matter with the two babies that I had. So I'm like, I got off that phone. I went up to my room and prayed and said, oh Allah, what am I going to do? I need money now while I'm in prison. I need money for when I step out the doors. So shortly after that prayer, it was a lady, older lady in the prison, her profession on the streets was a literary agent. So she had asked the camp administrator, which is another name for warden in a federal camp, could she give a course on creative writing? So I was like, wow. So my job at the time was the prison. I was a librarian during the daytime, and I taught computer classes in the evening. So in the morning, I would be in the library all by myself. So shortly after I got off that call and made that prayer, I had went into in the library, sitting there all by myself, and I used to do my letters and schoolwork, whatever it is I could do. And I had picked up a magazine. It was a Vibe or XXL, and it had a picture in there of this bald-head brother, and it said that he was locked up, and he had wrote this book called Be More Careful, and that was Shannon Holmes. And he said he was in jail, and I'm like, oh snap, this dude is in jail. He wrote a book. Now I'm sitting sitting at my desk in the library, and I'm like, wow, that just stuck out to me. And then I started looking at all the books on the bookshelves and start visualizing my name, Wahida Clark. And then that's when I had my epiphany. I'm going to write me a book. And right after that, the lady who was a literary agent asked could she give do a creative writing class, and I took that class. I started writing first, but I took that class, and she really showed me, put me on the right path on what I needed to do, and that's what made me start writing. So that's and once I started writing, I couldn't stop. Once I started, so I spent all my time writing and answering fan mail. And once the brothers in prison started seeing that my books was all over the place, it was like, wow, this chick did that. I can do it too. They started sending me manuscripts, and that's where the publishing company was born. So I spent and I even got in trouble. I got put in the hole twice because they said I was running a business in the prison, and you were not allowed to do that. But so I spent all my time writing.
I was going to ask you about that because I had read something about you going to the hole and solitary or whatever behind releasing your first book.
Yep.
I was going to ask, like, why did that happen? What was that experience like? And for real, like, what made you keep picking up the pen and still writing after that? I mean, I think so that would have put the brakes on a lot of people.
So look, so after the first book came out, Thugs and the Women Who Loved Them, and I remember when all the girls, we were at the mail, we waiting for the books to come in because, mind you, I had did all of my writing on yellow legal paper. So as I would do the chapters, I would let the sisters read the chapters and they give me feedback. So they would be, I go to the library at 8 o'clock to open the doors. They standing there waiting for the next chapter. So, and naturally when the book came, everybody was waiting because they sent me a bunch of books. So after the book came, it was in book form. One morning, it's like 6 o'clock. It wasn't even 7 o'clock in the morning. So the officer came and knocked on my door. He said, "Miss Clark, they want you over in the lieutenant's office." I'm like, "What?" I said, "Daggone, they must have caught some of my mail going out because in the feds, you're not supposed to write the prisons." So my husband, he was in prison, so I get some mail to him. So I'm like, daggone. So I get over there. When I get over to the lieutenant's office, there's two of them sitting there, and they holding up my book. I'm like, oh, snap. So they said, "Miss Clark, how did you do this?" So I said, "Do what?" They said, "How did you write this book and get it published?" I said, "Y'all did a creative writing class."
1 minute remaining.
Hold that thought. I'm going to call right back.
Okay, so I left off at, I'm sitting in the lieutenant's office and they're holding up the book and asking me, how did I get this done? So I said, "You guys gave a creative writing course. I took the course. I did everything that was taught. I graduated and I got my certificate. So the book is the result of me taking the course and doing the work." So they said, so they sent me back to my where my living quarters. So the next morning around the same time, the officer comes and gets me again. "Miss Clark, get dressed. They want you to go to the lieutenant's office." I'm like, oh my gosh. So I get back over there and they waiting again. So they said, "Well, in this book, Miss Clark, you mentioned a lot of the staff. Did you pay them to help you get this done?" I said, "Pay them." I said, "Just like it says in the acknowledgments." I said, "Thank the staff because of the inmate, the copy machines for the women, it was always broken. And in the course, it said, never send your original and only documents home to get typed up because if something happens, you lost your manuscript." So as I was writing on yellow legal paper. So being that the inmate copy machine was broke 95% of the time, I would ask whatever guard was on duty, worked in the kitchen, the guidance counselor, I was asking anybody, please make a copy of this so I can send it home so my family can type it up. I have a publisher that's waiting for the book, so please allow me to make the copies. So they would say, okay, if I make the copy, just when your book get published, you make sure you give me a shout out. So I said, will do. So that's what I did. I kept my word. I gave everybody who made copies for me a shout out. So I explained to them that's what that was. So they didn't buy it, and that's when they sent me to the hold. So the hold for the federal prison camp was the county jail. So where you're locked down 23 hours a day. They let you go out for an hour to go out, to the little rec yard. So I was locked down 24/7, 23/7. And when they came to give me my charges and give me my punishment, the officer said, I said, wait a minute. I said, so why am I here? I explained to him what happened. He just smiled. He said, well, Miss Clark, while you're in here, write another book. So, in the county jail, you ain't doing nothing. So that's what I did. That's when I wrote Payback as a Mother. But the good thing about being in the county jail was there was no male restrictions. And I saw that the women, they all had pen pals. And not one or two pen pals. These chicks were sending out 10, 12 letters a day to prisons all over the country. So I got on the phone. When I saw that, I got on the phone. I said to my niece, I said, I need me a flyer. Put the book cover on one side, the synopsis and the order form on the back, and send them to me. So they did that. So I start when the girls would send out their pen pal mail, I would give them some flyers. And I would write a note, hey, I'm Wahida Clark, I'm doing time, blah, blah, blah. This is my new book, support a sister. So my flyers start going all throughout the prisons, throughout the country. And it also helped that the book was a page turner. You couldn't put it down. And that's how I really got real big in the prison system. While I was in prison, I was hitting SS Magazine bestsellers list every month. I hit USA Today bestsellers list. I got me a literary agent, and I got 2 publishing deals all while in prison. So that's how that went down.
So, you already mentioned it, but you had assistance, obviously, from the outside when you was putting it all together. And a lot of people, they don't even realize how important that is.
Oh, God.
Can you speak on that and elaborate real quick for those that may not know, how essential it was to have somebody on the outside supporting you and assisting you in making that come to reality?
Absolutely. You have to have. When people write me now, they say they're in prison and they wrote a book. That's the first thing I ask them. I said, do you have somebody on the outside? Because you can't do it by yourself. There's a lot of pieces involved in writing a book. There's investment. It costs money to write a book. It takes time. And then on top of that, the people on the outside, they're also busy. They have lives. They have jobs. They have children. So I was blessed to have a good team of people on the outside. That is a blessing and essential.
Yeah, definitely. So after releasing, your first few books with other publishers and seeing that success, how on earth did you get the idea and the resources to actually start your own publishing company? And what was your motivation to do that?
Well, my first publisher was Black Print Publishing. They went out of business, filed bankruptcy. My first check from them, $25,000, it bounced. That bad boy bounced. I got a $25,000 check and it bounced. So that's when I had a literary agent, and he got me my first deal with Kensington. And like I said, other brothers, I only got manuscripts from the men. It was like, if this chick can do it, I can do it. So they were sending me manuscripts. So I said, I got to start my own publishing company. So my husband, he had finally came home. On my way in, he was coming out. So I told him I had to start my own publishing company. I wanted to really start that while I was locked up, but I didn't have the manpower on the outside, because that was a big fee to start a publishing company. So only thing I was doing while I was locked up was I did the business plan, and I was reading the manuscripts, putting to the side the manuscripts that was the best. So my husband, he got me an office, and they held the office down. And then when I came home, when I got in the halfway house, that was my job. I went and started working in my office. Wahida Clark Presents Publishing. So that's how I started my own publishing company. My husband got me an office, and my little a couple of family members, they just held it down. And as soon as I got out, I just stepped right in and started going to work.
That's what's up. You know, this is like no lie. I mean, I've seen your books and your titles in every book order form and catalog in every jail and prison I've ever been to. You know what I mean? Your books, they be floating around everywhere in the units, in the yards. You know, if it wasn't in somebody's hands already, they was already in the prison libraries too. You know, not to mention just about every bookstore I ever been to in the free world as well. You know, so that's one thing I can and will say about you for sure is you truly and definitely made your mark and your impact, you know, with your brand worldwide. And it's kind of amazing, you know, when you really think about how and where you started from. Is that actually like what you set out to do initially? Like, was that the plan? Did you really expect for all that success?
Absolutely. Once I said I'm gonna write a book, because I saw Shannon Holmes in there. I said, what? I said, Dad, he hood rich, and he a hood celebrity. In the source of the Vibe magazine, I said, I'm going to write a book because I need money. I had got on the prayer route. I pray. I said, I need money when I get home. I got to take care of my husband. I got to take care of the kids. When I get out, ain't nobody going to hire me. So I'm like, this got to be big. And that was always my vision. And also the vision was to put my people on, other authors on who, you know, had the same hustle and drive. So again, that's why I started the publishing company. Got some dope authors. And then finally, look, just like last 2 months, we signed a contract for the prison tablets. I don't know where you are, the prison tablets that say Signet. So I am the exclusive distributor for books, music, and film for those particular tablets. And hopefully by January the 1st, we'll be rolling out. Because, you know, we always have a hard time getting our books in the prisons and all that stuff. So we getting them on tablets finally.
That's big. That's real big. We definitely got tablets here. But I think it's by a company called Securus or something. It's all through the JPay thing or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That's not the ones we're going to be on.
Okay.
I'm coming after them next, though.
That's what it is. So then let me ask you this. Do you think, had it not been for sitting still in that prison cell like that, any of this would have ever happened for you?
Absolutely not. I didn't know I could write. I never planned on writing. That's why I said I wouldn't change not one day, not 1 minute, because I would not be sitting here on this phone talking to you. Yep. And I remember when I was like 10 and a half years, like, oh gosh, why 10 and a half years? Why? Why me? But yeah, I definitely wouldn't be here.
So let me ask you this, because I'm dying to know. I mean, when you saw your books first get published, right? Or better yet, you know, when you actually got to hold your very first book in hand, what did that feel like? You know, what was going on in your mind?
That was amazing. I told you, me and the girls, we was at the door waiting on the mail. It was like the envelope probably be here today, so we waiting on the mail, the officer to come to mail call. We standing there, and I saw that big vanilla envelope. I'm like, oh my gosh, they here. So bust that envelope open, pull out the books. That was amazing. Yep, that was amazing. I was like, daggone, this is real. This is real. But actually, once the book gets published, that's when the work starts. Because the books don't sell themselves. You know, I was constantly grinding, promote. You got to promote. Even in prison, you got to promote. You got to let people know that you have a product. Then your product has to be one of the best products. Because with a good book, a good story, that sells by word of mouth. If your story ain't good, ain't nobody going to talk about it, and people ain't going to read it or refer it. You know how many times I hear people saying, I remember one time doing a book signing. We was at this flea market in Cowtown, he called it, somewhere in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and we standing there, and so this brother walked past, so he backed up. So he said, he saw, because we had big old banners. So he said, is she here? So I said, who here? He said, Wahida. I said, I'm Wahida. He's like, wow, your books got me through. All I hear all the time, your books got me through. One dude told me that he used to rent my books out, rent the books out in the prison. But yeah, I get that so much all the time. How my books got brothers and sisters time. So I really appreciate that. And then don't forget, when I came home, we had made such a mark that when Cash Money wanted to start their get into the book game, because remember Urban Books, when Terry Woods popped, Vicky Stringer, Sister Soldier, the Street Lit books was big, so I came in at the right time. So Cash Money, they wanted to get it on, so they had started Cash Money content. As soon as I got home, my agent said, Wahida, called me up. He said, Wahida, he said, Cash Money, they want you to kick off their fiction, urban fiction imprint. So I was like, Cash Money, I told you about Slim and Baby? He said, yep. I said, wow. So that was a big move for me right there as well.
Yeah. You had mentioned the work, just starting once you finally finish your book, got your product. I wanted to say, I know nowadays it's a lot different than what it was when you started. We got Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, all those social media, podcasts, for that matter. And I know that didn't exist, when you started out. All you really had, like you said, was word of mouth and a small network, probably some supportive little black bookstores here and there,
Right. It was quite a few black bookstores, and they had a big impact in the community. They was eating from the Street Lit books. I remember Black and Nobel, when I first came home, they invited me for a book signing. They just rolled out the red carpet, cater and everything. They said this was to pay you back, Wahida, because we ate off of your book. So the economy, we did a lot for the black bookstores in the economy during that time. So yeah, and I was going to say something else, but I lost my thought. But go ahead.
Yeah, I know that firsthand. I actually had there was a store in Richmond, Virginia called the Lion's Den. It wasn't a bookstore, but we sold books in there. I had some of your stuff in there too. But I was going to ask you if you had access.
Wait, that's what it was. Hold that thought. MySpace. My daughter had set me up a MySpace account, and she was giving me messages and printing out the emails from the MySpace account. So that was the only social media that I had during that time, was MySpace.
Oh.
But go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, if you had access, to the tools of today at your disposal, then you think you would have done things any differently?
Well, being locked up, I'm still relying on outside my daughter, little Wahida Jr., to do everything. So it would be different, but yeah, I still wouldn't be able to do it because I was still locked up.
I definitely consider you like one of the pioneers, in the urban street storytelling category. Along with some of the people you mentioned, Terry Woods, Nikki Turner, a few others.
Yep. Nikki came to see me when I was in Alderson. Nikki came to visit me.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, you kind of separated yourself, though, in certain ways. And in my opinion, kind of surpassed a lot of the others in one way or another. Created your own lane, But how do you feel now about how the urban literary category has grown today? Do you think there's still more room to continue to grow and flourish?
Wow, that's a good question. Because it's, to me, in my opinion, it's saturated, and there's so many books out, and there, no unique. I like unique stories. During the time, it wasn't a lot of us, and we all had our own different flair. Like the pioneers of street lit was like the pioneers in hip hop. The pioneers in hip hop, it was all different. Kwame, the Polka Dots, the Wu-Tang Clan. Everybody had their own niche. They was all different. So us pioneers, I didn't even read a lot of their books because when I was writing my stories, I didn't want to, I wouldn't want to bite their style. I didn't want to copy off of anything of them. I wanted to be Wahida. So, but nowadays, okay, like my book, my first title, Thugs and the Women Who Love Them. Nowadays, when you go on the Amazon, there's Thugs Cry, Thugs this, a Thug Mark. I mean, everything is stuff. So the market to me is saturated, the same old stories. It's hard to find a good story. And actually, I just finished editing a good story last night. MC Shaky called The Kingdom. It's dope. And I emailed him. He at the halfway house now. Said, I think we got a winner here. We got a winner, because it's hard to find unique stories that's still street, but got a different twist and told with style. So that's just my opinion, though. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's real. You know what I mean? That's definitely real. I kind of feel the same way in a lot of aspects. What would you say has been your greatest achievement while you was in prison? And then since you've been released too, like, what are you the most proud of?
Well, I'm not done yet. I'm not done, but I can say I'm blessed that I'm still holding back. Right, my story's not over. There was a lot of black publishing companies that we all started around the same time. About 99% of them is closed down, and I'm one of the only ones that still stand. Just a few.
You have 1 minute remaining.
So I'm just getting I'm not done yet. I think once we get this distribution going and getting my office paid with some big checks, that will make me very happy. That will make me very happy.
So let me ask you this: if you could go back and say something to that young Wahida, that just walked into the system for the first time, because sadly it's a bunch of folks listening that's either headed towards a long prison bid one way or the other, or they in the process of doing the bid. Sad but true. And I've been trying to prevent that, for the most part, possibly even give a little motivation, with comeback stories like yours. Hopefully some insight, to the youth that's headed in the opposite direction of freedom and prosperity. So what would you tell that young Wahida today that would have made a difference in, your decision-making processes back then, prior to the success?
Wow, that's a good question. It's like a double-edged sword, because like I said, I wouldn't change anything at all, because that was all supposed to be my journey. And for the youngins out here today, we are lacking resources, mentorship, and good examples for them. So it's not their fault. I remember being when I was locked up. I remember the population was coming in, was getting younger and younger. I'm like, oh my gosh! When the 18-year-olds start coming in there, I'm like, oh my gosh. So, and I noticed with these 18-year-olds, these youngest, they didn't have no general life skills. I remember this one sister, 18, her cube was, a cube ain't but so big. How come you can't keep a teeny cube clean, your blankets washed, everything in order and wiped down? I said, one day I said, where's, go to the bathroom, don't even know to wash their hands after you use the bathroom. So one day I said, where's your mom at? So she said, in somebody's crack house. So I said, where's your dad? So she said, he's been locked up since I was in the 5th grade or something like that. So, that's your generation. They're coming up with no guidance. We don't have the resources in the communities to raise them and give them the right life skills. So, what can you say? They're out there hustling and surviving the best that they can. So this is that whole generation that we have to go back and set up something, put stuff in place, systems in place for them to be productive citizens and to make the right decisions. So it's not that much support out here, sir.
Definitely. In fact, I actually just did a podcast episode with that title exactly, was the prison population getting younger and younger. So I definitely agree with everything you just said. It's real, you know what I mean? It's true, and I see it every day while I'm still in here. They are getting younger and younger, and they have no life skills. They have no life skills whatsoever. So what you think is the most important life lesson that you might have learned from doing the time you did?
Seeing what we have to, if we don't do this ourselves, it's not going to get done. I remember I had interviewed Dr. Umar Johnson, and he reminded me that we had in my drawer a outline of a resource center. We need to set those up in the communities where we have the young kids and the young couples come in to get financial literacy, family counseling, like the youngins. They fight having these babies. Both of them young, don't know how to take care of the babies. Get to fighting, get into the court system. What is the court system? Nothing but the slave auction block. You go in there, they fighting, using the kids as pawns. Father going to jail because he ain't got $20 to pay the child support. We need to be able to circumvent and have preventative measures set up in our own communities before all of that goes down. So that's the biggest thing that I learned, empathy, during that time in prison, and also working in our nonprofit organization, Prodigal Sons and Daughters. So we got a lot of work to do. We have to do it ourselves. That's the biggest thing I learned. If we don't do it, it's not going to get done because no one cares about us. No one cares about us.
Well, I mean, I can only imagine that it would be very difficult, if not damn near impossible to follow in your footsteps. But what kind of advice do you think you could give to another aspiring writer or journalist who wants to try to accomplish even just a fraction of what you've been able to do?
Study the craft. Know you understand your craft of writing and publishing, and treat it as a business. If you want to get into writing and being an author for money, you have to treat it as a business. You have to know the craft. You have to know about publishing. Have your book straight. Marketing, promo. You have to learn the game and be ready to put the work in and hustle. No one's going to give you nothing. It's just not free. Very rare nowadays you can go get a publishing contract and get a big advance and kick back. Even though I got a big advance, I still never kick back. I always promote it and hustle, probably because I like it. Number one, I'm in sales. That's me. But a lot of people, they just think they can write a book and kick back and the money just comes in. Nope, it don't work like that. That's why in our business model, we stopped. We used to, in our publishing company, we used to give advances to the authors, but we stopped doing that because most authors, they don't even make their advance back. You got to pay the publisher. You have to pay to do the cover, the editing, the promo, and the author don't even put a post on their social media page. So we said, nope. All authors come to be, they pay us to get that stuff done, and we make sure that they hustlers. Because or else the book is not going to sell. They wasting our time, we wasting their time. So it's a whole new day out here now.
Definitely. So look, as far as in the present and in the near future, what you got going on? Like what you working on today, and what can we be looking forward to?
Well, definitely the prison tablets, the distribution. I published a lot of celebrities. Just had Drummer Boy Fresh. His song just went Diamond that he did with a Waka Flocka and Wale, No Hands. So we do a lot of Big 50. I saw her movie, the Big 50 movie for the old heads, Easy Mo B. I got him as a signed contract. So the new books, MC Shaky, his book is real dope. So just new books. The resource center that I told you about, we got to set that up. The distribution for the prison tablets. So that's those are the main things that I'm working on right now.
Yeah, all of that sounds dope. For real, it's very inspiring. To say the least. I'm gonna definitely keep my eyes and ears open for all of that. I wish you nothing but the best and continued success in all those endeavors. Hopefully
keep me in prayer, because it's a journey, bro. Keep me in prayer, because it's a journey. Because we haters among each other. We got the crab in the barrel mentality. That's real. That's another reason why I did my own. I just do my own lane, because there's a lot of haters, and But that's how we were raised to be. Haters, the crab in the barrel mentality. Why the other nationalities, they don't like each other, but they still do business with each other. They still promote each other, look out for one another. But black people, that's a whole nother, we definitely just slave mentality, bro.
I was going to say, hopefully by the time I exit these doors, I'm able to have a body of work and some content that's worthy of the same admiration too, by the folks who just enjoy what I do here on this platform, and other platforms.
Right.
Tell my stories on. But
well, I salute you for being behind the wall and having your podcast. Keep up the good work. That is the blessing. I'm humbled to be, that you even want to talk to me. So thank you.
Well, in closing, go ahead and let the people know where they can find you at, how to get in contact, if they're looking for some guidance and mentorship from the Queen, or maybe even possibly join your roster of authors, in your brand. If you want to give any shout-outs or closing statements or any other info, it's on you.
Absolutely. Well, this is Wahida Clark, the official Queen of Street Literature, and I'm signing out. Follow me on social media, everything at Wahida Clark. If you want to be a part of the team WCP, you got to be a hustler, you got to bring it, you got to be real, no fakers, no liars, you just got to be real. So that's it, and stay up. Big ups to all my brothers and sisters on lockdown. Don't waste your time, because this time's going to go by anyway. So use it wisely.
Well, there you have it, folks. Miss Wahida Clark, Queen Lit. I know you're super busy, and like I mentioned earlier, I most certainly appreciate you for taking the time to do this interview with us. It's been an honor, and I'm grateful for real. You're definitely welcome to come back anytime. And for the listeners, I hope y'all was able to grasp onto some of these jewels and gems that was being shared by the Queen. If you're not familiar, I guess you've been living under rocks or something somewhere. I definitely suggest you do some research. Get yourself familiar with this woman's work, what she's got going on right now, what's to come. She's definitely another prime example, of one who, at her very worst, found and created a way to be her very best. Found her calling from behind these walls and took it upon herself to better her own situation. Did the time, stayed motivated and focused, and turned that negative into a positive big time. Y'all can do it too. It's definitely possible. She's a true living example of that. That's just my thoughts, y'all. Until next time. Hopefully you gained something useful today, learned something you may not have known, or just heard something that provokes some deep thoughts within your mind. Please subscribe to the program so you can hear the latest episodes when they drop. If you enjoyed what you heard, please share it on your social networks. And if you know someone else that may find these topics interesting, please tell them where to find us as well. If you have any